Heyo, my Planet Coaster friends, Johnny5 Alive here, and the day is finally come. Today we will be playing in Yeti Land, and we are making the Great War. This is where we're going to be building hundreds of gingerbread warriors, hundreds of snowmen warriors, and we will be making them battle against an army of Yetis. So stay tuned, and let's check it out. The Great War is finally upon us, and I'm excited about this one. And every great war needs great leaders. So the Yetis have Frank, and I decided it would be fun if the Snowmen and Gingerbread had a giant snowman commander. And so we're building that here out of terrain. He's about half the size of Frank. He's not nearly as ferocious. In a 1v1, he would get absolutely demolished. But what the Snowmen and Gingerbread have on their side is numbers. So it's a strength versus numbers war, and their commander isn't as nearly as ferocious, but he's going to turn out to be pretty decent. He kind of looks like the State Puff Marshmallow Man, and I'm pretty happy with the results. But at this point, I'm burnt out in terms of creating new things for Yeti Land. I want to kind of reuse as much of the stuff I can and try to spend most of my focus on the animation and the poses between the Yetis in the center of the battlefield. So today we're going to be creating a lot of unique poses, a lot of unique things, and it's going to be absolutely crazy. By the end of this episode, there will be hundreds of gingerbread men and snowmen and Yetis. As I mentioned, it's a strength versus numbers game, so I think the Yeti battlefield is like 30 to 50 Yetis. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to take another look at it. But we're getting there, guys, and I'm feeling pretty good at the end of this episode. There might be some final tweaks and adjustments that we do. I have a few ideas that I could mix in a couple here and there and spread them out, and maybe I'll do a second pass on this where I go in. But generally, the bulk of the army and the war is completed by the end of this episode. So I'm really happy where we're at the Yeti Land now, because after we do this, we just have to do our park entrance sign. Then we have to do the inside of Betsy's cave, because there needs to be like a stash of candy that they're looting and some little goodies in the inside, and basically we got to pack the inside of the Yeti cave. And then we have to, where that destroyed gingerbread town is, where they're looting, we have to add a few more gingerbread houses that are being looted and pillaged to make it a little bit more believable. So we're going to probably add some more looters in the back line behind Frank and behind the war. So just some really minor touches. So the next big, I'd say, the next two big projects is the destroyed gingerbread town, which it's not that crazy of a project. So they're kind of like half projects. The biggest one would be inside of the cave, but we can copy paste a lot of candy, and I got to make a ride skin and put a ride in there. And generally, it's going to come together pretty quickly. And then we got to do a Yeti Land sign, which is like a pretty miniature project in itself. It won't take too long at all. And our scenario is essentially ready at that point. We're going to have lots of flat areas to build on, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So I'm pretty excited about having the scenario finished, and we're going to crank out the park really fast. We're going to be using blueprints from the workshop to build the park, and I've already picked out a whole bunch of festive ones, and I was looking through the workshop while rendering videos and stuff and just trying to get my picks. I found a few rides. Oh, I completely forgot. Maybe I gotta backtrack this. We might do a dive coaster, so that's a big project in itself. And I want that to be in the scenario. So we still have some work to go. It's just these mega parks, or these parks that we end up coming up with, everybody goes through it. They just never seem to end. But nonetheless, with those 3 or 4 mini projects that we have left on this, I feel like we're really at the home stretch. The fact that we got Darla done, Frank, Betsy, a lot of pillagers, our train station, 5 custom train stations, and the war. It's all there. It really is coming close. I mean, we don't even need the dive coaster at this point, but I feel like one extra cool, like, it's not often you get to build a really cool coaster. So you need the terrain, you need the setup, you need the park. So I want to take advantage of being able to build a terrain-based coaster while we still have a park to do it on. So I think the dive coaster is still pretty important, and we'll see. I'm not going to go as crazy on it as I did with Darla, so it should hopefully be a one-day project, and we should hopefully be able to get most of Yeti Land done in a weekend, depending on how hard I work. And but I should always underestimate my times, or overestimate. Yeah, I always underestimate my time, so maybe I should say 3 days instead of 2. I really think we can get the scenario wrapped up within the next week or so. We move on to building the park, and like I said, we're going to be using blueprints. I was struggling here with this thing. I couldn't move it for some reason, so I just got rid of it. So some of these things you see me putting down here, I built, as you saw, I was posing all these crazy snowmen, giving them weapons, just kind of like setting them up and, you know, giving them poses. But then you saw me put down some Santas and some other snowmen. Those are workshop items that I downloaded. Not too many. I didn't want to use any workshop items on this park, but that's one right there, that little angel snowman. It just saved me from doing that myself. It was quick. I thought they were neat. So, but they're very fractional compared to what I've built in Yeti Land. Like that snowman, that Mrs. Claus, I thought they're clever, they're cute, they're good commanders to be next to the snowmen, and you know, they're not the focal point. They're simply just cute little add-ons, and I'm just making them look a little bit angry, and just modifying them a bit. So I felt like these unique guys would be kind of like good elites / heroes for the battlefield, and it switches things up. So I'm giving them weapons and customizing them a bit. So I'm taking people's existing blueprints and modifying them just to help speed up our battlefield and add some variety in there. And yeah, and these guys are just cute, so I decided to put them in. This little snow guy, he's from I forgot his name, Olaf. I think it's Olaf or something. He looked crazy to me, so I covered him with TNT. He's their suicide bomber. So yeah, all these different like classes. We got knights, we got shield bearers, we got gunsmen, like they're kind of like your rangers, and we got the elite guys, the hero classes, you know, the commanders. Then we got like the Mrs. Claus and stuff. They're at the very back with giving out treats. They're kind of like your buffers. And so I'm just kind of trying to build and come up with all the different classifications and characters that we're going to need for this war. So this was quite a crazy process, because I had all these Yetis, I had all these poses, and I had all these characters, and it's like time to actually make use of them. And I had to bring them all over because I didn't want to keep going to the other side of the map and grabbing and moving and grabbing and moving. So this was such like organized chaos creating this, and it actually comes together. And this is one of the reasons I was kept putting the war off, because I knew it was going to be complicated, trying to create mass numbers with variety, without trying to copy paste too much and have uniqueness. We don't want to have too many repetitive duplicates, but at the same time you have to have massive numbers. So there's so many areas to jump back and forth when you're doing something like this. It's like, where do I start? Where do I begin? Where do I end? Well, where should their placements be? And moving them all around and coming up with ideas. So back here, what I'm doing is I'm trying to create like pedestrians. They're the backliners. They're like the family, and they're kind of just like watching, and they're just there to pick up the pieces if the snowmen don't do a good job at holding off the war. They're gonna have to be the backliners, the last defenders, if it ever went that far. But mainly they are just the the family and friends, the pedestrians, and they're just hoping that the snowmen and gingerbread men come out victorious. So there's a huge crowd back there, and now I decided to make the warriors. So we got dual-bladed gladiators, we got shield bearers, we got, I guess, reindeer riders marching in on battle. This is just absolutely crazy, so I'm trying to switch them up, create variation, randomize their location. Then I grab that whole group and duplicate them, but I delete a few, move a few so they don't look as repetitive, and there is variation among them. So we got a big giant warrior army on the left side, and then I'm trying to like grab some variation of our different snowmen here and create sort of like a front line, and then get some elites in there, the big giant snowmen with weapons, and the barbarian snowmen, I guess. We need like an archer crew, but we don't really have bows, so we're gonna just put in some cowboys with guns, revolvers. I just try to switch up their hats, make a couple drop their guns. Some have one gun, some have two, and just try and add some variation among them. I just went and fixed that arm because I noticed that in our dollar presentation. I was like, oh yeah, that guy's arm. I guess it crossed my mind. Adding some masks in, and just trying to make them all look unique and spice it up. I really love these guys. They're kind of like the shield bearers. They don't have weapons. They're just like, what do you call it? Shield wall! They form a shield wall and try to protect the backliners. So, kind of cute. They're hiding behind their shields. And I decided to put some gladiator snowmen in the front and in random spots. And it's just filling up so quickly, guys. We're like 13 minutes into this recording, maybe less, and we've already got a pretty massive army, and this is just the beginning. It gets a lot crazier than this. So I'm trying to spread out the variation some more. I felt like having just gingerbread men on one side and snowmen on the other side, it was too much separation. So I want to randomize them a bit, spread them out a bit so they're not so clumped up, and they disperse, so the bigger numbers are in the center, and then there's some lingering ones around the outside. So I'm really trying to close the distance between the armies and try and find my spacing, but also leave room for the center battlefield where we have all the crazy stuff happening. So most of these are pretty generic poses right now, and they're just like preparing for battle. They're all in battle formation. They're all in their battle stances. And we're going to have some more creative animations in the center as they're coming together and clashing with one another. So looking at the footage, guys, this could probably be about a 30-minute video, just over. And we get a lot done in this. Probably one of the most productive videos yet. We're at 10 times speed. So it's about 5 hours to create all of this. Maybe a bit more, 5 to 6 hours. I took some breaks in between, and off camera was thinking about things and, you know, placing certain things down, prepping, and I was looking through my blueprints and stuff, which you don't really see any of that. So I'd probably say it was overall about 8 hours. But we get to some pretty fun stuff, and I was just having fun with this. And in my Discord group, we had people like asking to see what was going on. So putting down these trumpet girls, they're kind of like your buffers slash, what do you call them? They're they inspire people, kind of like they're the drum players and the music people. They're there to inspire and lead people into battle, or they could even be considered healers. They're angel wings, so they bring the snowmen back to life, put their heads back on. They're the medics, I suppose. But yeah, I had people in Discord asking to see screenshots, and every time I made a crazy pose, I would show it to them, and then they would come into voice chat, and they're like laughing and telling me how much they loved it. And I was having so much fun making them laugh that I ended up like just going, like, I just kept on turning the dial, turning the oven up, and I just kept on coming up with more and more crazy ideas for these the battle. And you guys are probably going to think I'm quite twisted, but at the end of the day, these are snowmen, and we're not hurting anybody. We're just lobbing snow piles. We're just destroying snow piles and cookies. There's not too many Yetis that are actually dying. Like there's not going to be any swords cutting Yeti heads off. There's going to be no blood or gore. There are Yetis that look like they are in danger or possibly hurt, but there's no direct gruesomeness when it comes to killing Yetis, because I felt like that it's a little too violent, whereas lobbing the head off a snowman, it doesn't seem that violent, I guess. So, because the Yeti's like an actual mythical, like, I don't know. You guys get what I'm saying at. It's like, it seems cruel to kill animals where it doesn't seem cruel to kill cookies. So, in the battlefield, it'll look like the snowmen are getting the worst of it. However, there's a few heroic snowmen that come out of the woodwork, probably say 3, and they strike back, and the Yetis look a little terrified. So there's some outliers in this group, because at the end of the day, snowmen and gingerbread men were never really good trained warriors, and the Yetis are sort of just wreaking havoc here. But we'll never know the outcome of this battle. You guys are gonna have to finish the story yourself. But from the looks of things in the battlefield, what you guys will get to see in a bit here, it looks like the snowmen won't be faring so well. But it's all fun, and I think it's hilarious, and I can't wait to get to the action. So we're getting there. Right now I'm just kind of prepping our snowman warriors, our Yeti warriors, and we're gonna be making our battle formation. So I'm just kind of placing the ones that I need, and I'm creating variation, spacing them out, putting a few of the bigger guys in there. For the most part, there's only very few big Yetis in Yeti Land. We didn't use the big ones anywhere else. They're just these rare ones that have grown up, and they're just slightly bigger, and they're used as sort of unique champion bosses. So there's very few of them, and we're using them for the battlefield for once, and you won't find them anywhere else in Yeti Land. Most of them are just little babies. So felt like it was a good time to finally throw those guys in and use them, and we're just trying to create the formation. And I did notice the formation was a little bit too tight. At this rate, we're going to have just as many Yetis as we do snowmen if I space them out like this. So we will change the spacing, but I'm basically taking my picks right here, saying, okay, I need 3 of these, I need 2 of those, and I'm spacing them out, randomizing them, and trying to give a good variety. And once I'm happy with the numbers, I'll pretty much delete that whole backline army, and then once I have the formations in, I'll go and start creating the battle, and that should be coming up not too long from now. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about being where we're at, and like I said, there's going to be a few final adjustments that we need to make. But you can see now we have the big army on the left and a smaller army on the right, but it's strength versus numbers, and I felt like that amount was pretty good. And we're gonna expand on this a little bit more in the future, like the space behind the Yeti army. We're gonna have more like looters wandering around and just kind of like randomness. But I also want to keep some blank spots, because there's some blank spots behind the gingerbread men. We're gonna eventually need pathing for our guests to walk around, and maybe like a few shops and facilities, so the guests can actually walk around the battlefield. So we're gonna purposely leave some blank spots so that we can have that. You can see there, I just made the hero snowman. He's one of the most brave guys. He just like jumped out of the front line with a sword. He's like, yeah! And he's trying to butcher a Yeti. So he's mid-flying pose, and this is where we really start having fun, guys. So I'm grabbing all the crazy Yeti poses. This he's going to be doing a choke slam pose. So, and I think I eventually end up pulling, because the snowman's bottom would be so heavy that it falls off. So I end up pulling that out later on. to add a little bit more animation to it. This guy's sad about his broken swords. Then I decided to crunch him up a little bit so he's like terrified. And you got this gigantic barbarian leaning over him. This cookie guy that I downloaded off the workshop, he had the craziest expression, and it's a perfect opportunity for me to have a snowman punching a hole through him, and he's just freaking out. It's so good. So I'm really just coming up with all these crazy random poses. This little girl here is going to be picking up some Yetis by their scruffs, and she's going to be preparing to throw them in the pit of doom. And I love how she's smiling about it. Like, they don't really think about killing snowmen and gingerbread men as being cruel. They think of it as fun. They're kind of like, you know, they're like little animals. They don't know better. This one's punching the head off a snowman, and his hat's kind of stayed in the same place, but his head went shooting back. It's kind of like pulling a cloth off a table. Everything stays still, but the cloth comes out. This was made by Sherry. We featured her. Was it Shelly? Sherry? I can't remember now. She was featured in the last workshop Wednesday, and I mentioned that I was going to use the melting snowman for Yeti Land, and here we go. For whatever reason, I'm selecting it. I wasn't able to add it to my, like, all these Yetis and snowman and stuff. They're one big building piece. There was a building block inside of this snowman, but I got rid of it. But I still wasn't able to add the pieces to a group, so I ended up leaving it. But it was a frustrating little fiddling moment where I couldn't quite get it right. So the idea that I'm going for here is we're getting our flamethrower dude to purge this snowman. So he's just cooking them, and it looks really vicious at nighttime. So I had to remove the smile off his face because that just didn't work. We put a little scared face instead. He's not too pleased about that, and he's getting just cooked. Stuff, it just starts getting crazy from here, guys. I had too much fun with this. So this guy here is swinging a sword. You can almost guess what's going to happen here. Swing a sword at a snowman. Oh, the poor snowman. It's so evil. I put some shield bearers back here. I thought they were kind of cute. So it takes 3 or 4 snowmen to hold off one Yeti. This one's happy because it's not looking. He has no idea what's about to happen to him. So much fun. So I took the guy that was kind of lying down looking at the coaster tracks. I had a pose for that, and it was the easiest way for me to transition into a charging quarterback or whatever. He's like running in with a shoulder check, and he's kind of like your frontline charger. And I thought it would be fun if he was kind of like shoulder checking the shield bearers. So this little snowman is going for a ride, and he's losing his hat. He's getting punted back. I thought, why not have one getting completely run over, just flatline, and then one bouncing off of his head. So the 3 shield bearers, just they're still not enough for a Yeti. This guy's just waiting with his sword. This is too much fun. So I keep coming up with new ideas, and we're just taking all the empty spots and putting a new disaster. And the pit of death, I might do a few more ideas later on. Like I said, we'll probably do some final touches here and there. But when we finish building our dive coaster into the pit, I think it would be probably appropriate if I fill the whole bottom of the pit with snowman pieces. Just like, it's like a pit of skulls. Instead of a pit of skulls, it's like a pit of snowman pieces. It'll look pretty terrifying indeed. She's having fun making her pose like she just did a two-handed chop. And this is a workshop blueprint that I found. Someone was... yeah, they made it so a sledding snowman ran over their friend. And I thought it was a perfect use for making it look like it was chopped in half. So that's pretty evil. So just a lot of chaos, and I'm trying to come up with new ideas as I'm going through here. I think I was talking to Ravius, and he says you got to do this is Sparta kick, and have one kicking a snowman into the pit of doom. So here we go. We're making this guy throw out his best kick. Now that I think about it, he probably should have had his chest out more and his back arched further. Now that I'm thinking about it. Nonetheless, it still looks pretty good. I might adjust it later. But if I really wanted to sell the animation, he should have been leaning into it a bit more. He's just kind of like soccer punting him. He's not really thrusting, but that's alright. It still works. Probably didn't need to put that much strength into it anyways. So this is that little destroyed family, and I just kept on ripping pieces out of it because someone just made this little set of, like, what did they call it, like snowmen horrors, and it's like their families like killing each other or something, and it was like perfect for my scenario. So I just decided to take aspects. This guy's kind of doing a, what do you call it, like a bum drop on a snowman, just squashing him. I thought this was absolutely hilarious. This guy was stabbed by a tree, so I decided to take one of my Yetis, and like he's literally just stuffing a tree through this guy. It's the most brutal death or kill. I don't even. It's not even a kill. It's a I don't know what to call it. Snowmen aren't real, guys. But you guys, it's a snowman destruction. It's the worst one. He's stuffing a tree right through him. I thought that one was kind of neat. Like, this guy was buried. He stuffed him into the ground. He's taunting him. This next one, I think I'm doing it so he's going to be sitting on one. So I had to try and make him like look squished. I really feel bad for these snowmen, guys. What a terrible person. Look how cute they are. Meanwhile, I'm smiling about it. It is what it is, guys. It's absolute chaos. So I decided to take a few of those guys and reuse them and put them in the back lines, because why not? And we do a few more poses here, I think. Let me see how much time we have left. We have about 5 minutes. And I decided it's really hard to destroy the gingerbread men because like they're just full objects. So the only way I could really do it is to take half of them and put them in the ground, and the other half doing the other way in the ground, and it looks like they're cut in half. But other than that, I couldn't come up with too many more ideas. So I decided to just kind of have our frontline charger guys just kind of like plowing into the front line, just like going head on. They're the first guys into the battlefield, just going in to do work. So just like gingerbread men flying everywhere. So I do a couple of those, so they're breaking into the front lines, and then there's chaos everywhere else. We do this one here. I decided like we have one guy getting shot. We got one guy almost getting stabbed. We need another Yeti that's kind of almost getting screwed over. But this one, it's not like he's really hurt. He's just kind of like, oh, you knocked me over. Yeah, he's just slightly annoyed. So they had a snowman Zamboni driver coming in there, and that's sort of like their version of the frontline chargers. And then we have like this cool vehicle that I found, and I decided to have a Yeti riding that, running over some snowmen. And there's I think a couple more. I don't know, I might have made a few adjustments after that, but for the most part it all came together, and here it is. Now I didn't do any slowed down footage for you guys. I have some, but I did you'll see that I'm going to do a presentation that's going to come right after this video. So you guys are going to see a 60 FPS video presentation that I'm going to be putting together, and it's going to be showing panning shots of all of it. I've used Cheat Engine so that I could slow down the game, and then I'm going to be speeding up the footage, editing it, putting some music in, and giving a nice presentation for you guys. So that's pretty much going to do it for this episode, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the presentation. It'll be coming up just after, and let me know what you guys thought of this war down in the comments below, if you think it's good, if there's anything I should add, and all of that stuff. All right, everybody, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye now.